Ladies and gentlemen, will you please put your hands together and give a warm Christians United for Israel welcome to our keynote speaker, Glenn Beck.
Hello. Please sit down. I don't want to be in this city longer than I have to. I'm thrilled to be here tonight. I will tell you that I said to John backstage after listening to him, you couldn't suck just a little so I didn't have to perform so hard. I actually, listening to him, I feel a little like Nancy Pelosi now. Jeez. I'm not a joiner of organizations. Despite what it looks like in the last few years of my life, I'm not an activist. I'm not a guy who speaks out. I'm a guy who watches NASCAR or sits on the couch in my underpants and eats Doritos. I've always been a lazy American. Unfortunately, the times are different. I've joined two organizations in my life. I have joined my church, and I have joined the NRA. I guess that makes me a guy with God and guns. But last night I heard there are 700,000 calling themselves members of Christians United for Israel, and tonight I would like to make that 700,001. And David, I not only heard your challenge for the campus project that you're working on at GBTV. We are working on something similar, and we're not going to repeat the effort that you have. Instead, I'd like to join you, and my wife and I would like to donate $10,000 to your effort tonight. This is a worthwhile cause. This may be the cause of our lifetime. 14 days ago, I did something I've never ever wanted to do in my life. 14 days ago, I spent 2 days in Auschwitz and Birkenau. It profoundly changed me as a human being. You can watch all the movies you want. You can read what you want in books and on internet. But until you've stood in the gas chamber, you don't have any real idea of what this is all about. As I was walking down the tracks, going from Auschwitz I to Auschwitz II, Birkenau, I thought to myself, there has got to be some way to make sure this doesn't happen. A museum is not good enough. A bus trip to Washington, D.C. is not enough. Our students don't understand it. There must be some way other than just showing Schindler's List. There must be some other way. And as I was walking down the tracks, these words came to me. We all know that it makes sense that we are all different, yet we are all alike. What makes us alike, what makes us the same, is our humanity, not our rights, but our rights coupled with our responsibilities. Jews and Gentiles alike have a basic right to live. You cannot round people up in the middle of the night. You cannot break down people's doors and just snatch them. You cannot treat people like animals just because of who they are. No matter who we are, all of us have a right to practice peacefully our religion, to raise a family, and to use our God-given talents to create something of value and conduct an honest business. We have these rights. I thought to myself, there should be some sort of declaration as I was walking on those tracks. There ought to be some universal Bill of Rights. And then I thought the only one that would do that is the United Nations. And I realized nothing useful comes out of the United Nations, and I dismissed that idea. But as I continued to walk, ever growing closer to Birkenau, the site where more people were murdered than any other place on the entire planet, a fear began to grow in me. A fear that should have been eradicated when the Nazis were defeated. A fear that was growing more and more intense as I came to that opening where the train went through. The fear was caused by the understanding that the world is yet again turning a blind eye to evil, the same kind of evil. It was laser focused. What is the answer, Lord? What is the answer? How do we protect one another? And it dawned on me, I came back to my original answer, a declaration. In America, there is a growing attempt in the political, media, and academic classes to dismiss our founders and, more important, their God-inspired work. Maybe this is why millions of Americans today are sending themselves back to school. They are educating themselves on the words of our founders, educating themselves on the things that are on the edge of being lost. For some reason, those ideas burn in the hearts of most Americans. But most Americans can't really identify why. If I may, I'd like to see if I can clearly state why this old, dusty, outdated document that chartered a new course for mankind should have brought us into World War I earlier and blown up the tracks to Auschwitz when we first saw them from the sky. It is the answer for Israel. It is the answer for the Jewish people. It is the answer for America and the entire world. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The founders had the answer 150 years before Hitler showed up. But as our founders knew, there is more than just stating the obvious or self-evident. You must be able to guard those rights. This is what the Jewish people have not been able to do. They have had no home base. The 13th century BC slaves run out of their homeland. Then the Crusades start. I don't need to tell you the history, but the Jewish people around the world need to know that Christians know their history. They must know we have seen it, we understand it as much as we can, and we are appalled by it. Crusades from the 11th to 14th century, and then the Black Plague happens. And because of the ritual cleansings, the Black Plague does not affect Jews in Europe like it does non-Jews. And because of that, the Black Plague must be some sort of a Jewish plot. And so they are hunted again. In 1400, in Poland, in Krakow, there was a fire in the city. And of course, it was blamed on the Jews. But the king at the time was a friend. And so he gave them a parcel of land and built a great wall and a moat around it. He would protect them. He was good for a while until he died. It didn't last long. 2 days before Queen Isabella dispatched the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria to find the New World, as the world was about to open up, it was dragged into darkness 2 days before. She ordered the rounding up of all of the Jews, the Edict of Expulsion. 200,000 Jews run out of Spain. This began the expulsion out of Europe. Any idea when that was officially ended? December 16th, 1968. In 1648, Ukrainian massacre, 65,000 dead. 1881 to 1920, and I could go on all night. I'm hitting some of the low points of human history. 800 Jews were decapitated in an assembly line fashion in one of the Russian pogroms. 1939, the English White Paper limits emigration of Jews to Palestine. Why? In heaven's name, why? Why would this nation turn the St. Louis around? In Almighty God's name, why? Germany, Russia, the Olympics, and Entebbe. Today, it never seems to end. The Jewish people have been chased out of almost every country and every corner of this planet. They have been smeared. They have been maligned. But to our shame as human beings, most of all, they have been forgotten in times of need. This is why the nation of Israel is vital. Helen Thomas and all those like her, both left and right, have been saying the same thing for thousands of years. Go back to where you came from. And when they do, they're told go someplace else. Enough is enough. The Jewish people have gone back to where they came from. They are the ones that stacked the stones on the Temple Mount, and those same stones are being dropped rest on their heads today as they peacefully assemble just to pray. Enough is enough. The Jewish people have wisely learned not to trust anyone. Not to trust anyone but themselves to be the guardians of their God-given rights. I hope my fellow countrymen learn that lesson before our rights are taken as well. No one can protect your rights better than you. No one else will, no one else can. To rely on others is to ensure economic slavery at best and death camps at worst. Not a single American, not a single man in China, not even the Frenchy French, would allow rockets to be fired into their neighborhoods, school children to be shot on their own playground, or families brutally murdered in their sleep by murderous teenagers who claim to be neighbors. Love thy neighbor, not murder thy neighbor. We hold these truths to be self-evident. No one should or ever would compromise and give up a safety barrier between themselves and a neighbor that would shout, that would whisper, that would teach their children to hate you and kill you. Which one of us would give up more of our backyard to a neighbor that would look over the fence and every time you walked by said, "I'm gonna kill you"? Which one? I contend no one in their right mind. With that being said, there is enormous amounts of room. This is a planet with an awful lot of space. As long as you want to be a part of the family of mankind, there is space for all of us who believe this declaration, that all men are created equal, and we have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And states can be established, but not at the expense of another state. We must and can work together, but only with honest brokers who will admit the truth. And here it is: Israel, historically, is the land of the Jews. I can't believe I'm the one assigning legitimacy by saying they're legitimate. Check with the UN. When has there been another state that has been declared a state by the global body? When did we start calling land that was won in a war by the non-aggressor? When did we start calling that land occupied? Do we condemn North Vietnam over occupied South Vietnam, Kashmir and Azerbaijan? Those aren't occupied territories. Those are disputed. It seems to me that the jury is out on those, but Israel, no. Are we going to begin? Do you hear anybody saying that California, Texas, Arizona is occupied Mexico? Wait a minute, that's a bad example. Yes, I do hear that. It seems there's only two countries that are having this problem. What a coincidence! It's the great Satan and the little Satan. What are the odds? Now let me ask you this. Anybody who says we can have honest negotiations, I can. But not somebody who's calling you the great Satan or little Satan, especially people who believe in things so much they will blow themselves up because God tells them to. Look, I'm talking to a room full of religious wackos, the media would tell me, none of which as crazy, out of control, and dangerous as all of you are. I don't see any of you willing to strap on a suicide vest on either you or your children because in your deranged mind you think God is telling you to do it. But there are those at the negotiating table that will do that, and yet they call us the great Satan and the little Satan. Okay, you won't strap the suicide vest to yourself, but are any of you going to negotiate with Satan? No, I wouldn't either. Why are we negotiating with people who we know are religious zealots and they believe we're Satan? We're not Satan, but it does start with an S. We're stupid. Americans must reconnect with common sense. We are reconnecting with our founding documents for the first time in about 100 years. Hopefully, we will do it this time and repair some of the mistakes that we've made in the last 100 years. Because we have made mistakes, because we've unpegged from self-evident truths. Hopefully this time, we will not forget the real source of power. The people, but more importantly, our God, the God of Abraham that we all have in common. I am an inadequate messenger. I am a man that is compelled to stand. I am a father who doesn't want to spend any more time away from my children. But again, I am compelled to stand because I love my children. I have a smaller role at the table than most of you. I am new to the game of standing up and speaking out. I am trying to make up for lost time. And the thing that I learned after I sobered up was from Thomas Jefferson: fix reason firmly in her seat, and question even the very existence of God. For if there be a God, he must surely rather honest questioning over blindfolded fear. I have no fear because I have questioned God. I know what is true. I know what saves. I know what destroys. I have learned this much. And if I may be bold and make this declaration, in regards to the Jewish people and Israel, until you have been chased and killed in country after country, until you are truly friendless, even those who claim to be your friends, most of which will knife you in the back or the side or turn away while someone else does, until that is you, you have no idea what it's like to finally have a place to rest your head while someone in exactly the same position takes the night watch and watches for you and your family. It is time that the world declares clearly in a unified voice that Israel not only has a right to exist, but exist as a Jewish state. The Jewish people have a right to live. They have a right to defend themselves against all threats, foreign and domestic. And for once and for all, the good people of the world must remember there is a difference between good and evil, and we must choose. That's somewhat disturbing coming from a man, but I mean, look at me, I'll take it. I know you feel the same way. You cannot believe what others can't see. Evil is becoming so clear. Evil is taking the mask off. Evil always wears a hood, like the KKK. It rarely comes in a nice, snappy uniform. But it has in the past. Only when it has scared everyone else into the shadows does it take the mask off. In Iran, the mask is off. There is no amount of cloaking after a while. Nothing, no mask can hide it from those people who have the courage to open their eyes and to stare the truth in the face. And the great thing is, evil is terrified of those people. There are so many reasons for us to link arms, one with another, across all denominations, all colors, all creeds, all nations. Link arms with one another. One of which, and the least of which, is that Israel is the canary in the coal mine. As Israel goes, so goes the Western way of life. Do you really think that the people in Iran, the leadership, do you really think the wackos that want to destroy the great Satan and the little Satan are going to say, oh, well, we have the little Satan, let's relax? It will embolden them. That is the least of the reasons. I would point out another reason. For anyone who follows, truly tries to follow the one God of Abraham, knows that each of us will be judged. Each of us will be judged as a people and a nation on how we treat Israel. But for me, these are the easy answers. This is the gateway answer. This is the answer that, quite honestly, if you go no further, leads again to the Inquisition. It leads again to you committing the crime. Why did Ruth not leave Naomi's side? Because she loved her. She loved her. Christians must not stand up because the Messiah is coming. We must not stand up because we want another baptism. We must not, as free citizens of the world, rise up because our freedom will be lost. We must stand together because enough is enough. We as people said, we promised ourselves, our planet, and our God we would never forget. We didn't promise because there was going to be some written test, but the test of our lives and the test of our civilization. Our test is not whether or not we will stand, but also why we stand. Self-interest, because we get something out of it, because of personal salvation, or because we love our fellow man. And we have finally learned the lessons that millions have died for over 4,000 years to teach. We must love one another. When we stop seeing Israelis as apart from us, and instead as us, we can move to the next level as human beings. Life is just like a really cool 3D version of Angry Birds. You cannot move to the next level until you get it right. How many times is the Lord gonna give us the opportunity to get it right? Let's get it right this time. And to my Jewish friends, I beg of you, entreat me not to leave you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people. Your God shall be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. I met a wonderful woman in Krakow. She's one of the righteous among the nations. She's a sweet, angelic woman. She, as a 16-year-old, began to save Jewish neighbors simply. In the ghettos, you were allowed to have 230 calories a day as a Jew. Someone asked her, "Please, do you have anything to eat?" She said, "Meet me back here tomorrow. I'll give you soup." The next day, 4 people showed up. She told her parents, The next day, more showed up, and they provided bigger bowls of soup. Before you knew it, they were hiding people, ferreting them out, putting them under the floorboards of a barn and keeping them safe. I asked her before we parted, I said, I am desperately seeking the answer. As a righteous among the nations, we all have that righteous tree in us. We all have that seed. Please, how do we water it? How do we water it? Before the translator could even finish the question, she said, God. Then she said something amazing. Remember, the righteous among the nations didn't become righteous. We just held the line as the rest of society went over the cliff. It's not as hard of a job as we think it is. We don't have to become superhuman. We just must remain human. And it ends. Darkness cannot be defeated by darkness, only light. Hatred cannot be defeated by hatred, only love. Let us be people of light and love. These are the answers, and they are the answers of a civilized world. They were Dietrich Bonhoeffer's answers, but he failed. In studying Dietrich Bonhoeffer over the last 18 months, I can tell you I believe I know why he failed. Because there is a tipping point in society where the ideas of Gandhi no longer work. We must not get to that point before we wish to stand. Those, unfortunately, when we struggle against an inhuman and uncivilized foe, those are the times that only a well-informed, God-fearing, vigilant, well-armed society will stand and succeed. A people who long before declared that they had a right and then seized the opportunity to have the ability to protect themselves. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak, not to stand is to stand. I, as a single individual, have made my choice. I am trying to teach my children courage. I am trying to water the seed of righteousness within them. So God forbid the winds begin to blow. The roots are deep in them. I and my family will stand against anyone trying to erase, liquidate, or round up any group of people because of race or creed. If the world goes down this path again, and we begin to define being human as someone who casts out the Jew or the Gentile or the Muslim just because of who they are, then I declare I no longer wish to be called a human. If the world, again, accepts silently that the idea that a despotic regime has the right to kill the Jews and use fear and muscle and intimidation to frighten others away from their side, then today I declare, count me a Jew and come for me first. when we all stand together and say, I'm one. Show me the Jews. I'm one. When we all raise our hand, we change the world. They cannot kill all of us. Let us declare, I am a Jew. Our Jewish friends and neighbors, they must all know and those who wish them harm anywhere in the world, they must be warned. This is not Spain, 1492, or Germany, 1939. This still is America, 2011. We are not the Christians of the Crusades. We are the Christians united for Israel. And these are the things that we find self-evident. And in support of this declaration, we mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. God bless you. God bless the U.S., and God bless Israel.
And God bless you, Glenn Beck.